coming for her. And I'll be coming for you, too.
Sure you will. And I'll be waiting.
Streets of Fire, a truly unique film in the history of 80s cinema. A self-described rock and roll fable, Streets of Fire was the brainchild of director Walter Hill, producers Lawrence Gordon and Joel Silver, and screenwriter Larry Gross, the team behind the wildly successful Eddie Murphy action comedy 48 Hours. With 48 Hours being a success, Hill knew that Paramount would be willing to greenlight almost anything the same team wanted to do, sure that it would make money. Hill decided to use the opportunity to create the kind of movie he wanted to see as a teenager, and which included all the things he thought were, quote, great then and I still have great affection for. Custom cars, kissing in the rain, neon, trains in the night, high-speed pursuit, rumbles, rock stars, motorcycles, jokes in tough situations, leather jackets, and questions of honor. And Streets of Fire has all of this in spades. However, the script was rejected by then head of production of Paramount Michael Eisner on the grounds that he thought it was too conceptually similar to Indiana Jones. As a result, the script was submitted to Universal on a Friday and was greenlit by the end of that same weekend, the fastest greenlight Hill had ever received. The tone of the film is interesting. It has aspects of a movie musical without actually being a musical. This is largely because Hill and Gross decided early on that Streets of Fire would be a highly stylized film. The movie was shot almost entirely on Universal's backlot with the exception of some interiors and a few weeks of outdoor location work in Chicago and Wilmington, California. Universal even went so far as to erect a gigantic tarp over the backlot so the film, which took place primarily at night, could be shot at all hours of the day. You couple this with the general aesthetic of the movie, which I describe as a 1950s biker movie crashing headlong at 90 miles per hour into the 80s, and you have a film which doesn't resemble reality but has its own unique feel, much like the films of Terry Gilliam or Tim Burton. And while 48 Hours may have been the project that gave Hill the clout to make this movie, tonally it's more like a cousin to one of Hill's other projects, the cult classic street gang movie, The Warriors. Adding to the odd, otherworldly tone of the movie is the fact that Hill and Gross made the conscious decision to not cast anyone in the movie over the age of 30. Diane Lane, who plays lead character Ellen Aim, was 19 when the movie was made. Larry Gross would later say that this decision came because they were heavily influenced by the work of John Hughes and Francis Ford Coppola's adaptations of Rumblefish and The Outsiders. The audience is given warning of what they're about to see at the beginning of the film, which makes it clear that this movie happens in another time, another place. We then go to a theater in the Richmond district of the unnamed city the movie takes place in, where rock singer Ellen Aim and her band, The Attackers, are doing a benefit concert, largely because this is Ellen's hometown. The fact that it's a charity performance doesn't exactly thrill her manager/boyfriend Billy Fish, played by Rick Moranis.
We all set? Hey, big crowd, huh?
Yeah, now one of them's got a pot to piss in. I never should have let myself get talked into this dumb benefit. I could be making some real money tonight.
If you're used to seeing Moranis only play comedic roles such as the lovable nerd or harried parent, Billy Fish is a complete departure from that kind of thing. Fish is primarily concerned with one thing and one thing only, protecting his investment. While on some level you get the idea that he does love Ellen, he clearly loves money more, and as a result, Fish is kind of a jerk. It's a much different sort of thing than you usually see from Moranis, and he pulls it off beautifully. We go into the first major musical number of the film, Nowhere Fast, written by Jim Steinman, best known as the composer of most of Meatloaf's catalog, notably the albums Bat Out of Hell and Bat Out of Hell 2.
You and me were going nowhere slowly, and we gotta get away from the past. There's nothing wrong with going nowhere, baby, but we should be going nowhere fast.
However, trouble arrives in the form of motorcycle gang The Bombers and their leader Raven Shattuck, played by Willem Dafoe. No sooner does the first number end than the Bombers rush the stage and abduct Ellen, causing chaos and anarchy as they make their escape. In attendance at the concert is Reva Cody, played by Deborah Van Valkenburg, who writes a letter to her brother, ex-soldier, and our hero, Tom Cody, played by Michael Pare. Tom arrives at the diner Reva either owns or works at, the movie doesn't make it clear, and settles in with some coffee when another gang, the Roadmasters, shows up and decides to cause trouble when Reva isn't impressed by their tough guy act. Tom steps in and literally bitch slaps their leader.
Try it again, punk.
After dealing with the Roadmasters, Tom claims their car is spoils of war, because in this world you can apparently do that, and heads off for a joyride with it. Reva tells Tom about Ellen's kidnapping, and Tom gets a reunion with one of the cops that patrol the Richmond.
Tom Cody. It's been a couple of years since I've had any trouble out of you.
Hey, Ed, I just came home to visit my big sister. You're not gonna have any trouble with me.
Glad to hear it. We don't need somebody coming back here trying to give us a hard time.
Come on, Ed. He just got back. Give him a break.
Yeah, I'll give him a break. Get out of here, Cody.
We find out from Reva that Tom and Ellen used to be an item, but it didn't work out. Reva also called Tom back to town to rescue Ellen, but Tom's not interested, especially after hearing Ellen is with Fish. Tom heads out for a drink where he encounters McCoy, a mechanic played by Amy Madigan, who does not take kindly to snide remarks made by Clyde the bartender, played by Bill Paxton.
We've been driving up a tab here all night. We're not real big on credit.
Are you trying to say that I can't pay?
Yeah, let's see the color of your money.
There, happy?
Yeah, but now I don't like your face.
You know, everywhere I go, there's always an asshole.
Amy Madigan originally auditioned for the role of Reva, but said during the audition that she wanted to play the role of McCoy, who was originally a male character. Madigan pointed out that a woman could also play the role without having to rewrite the dialogue. Hill liked the idea and went with it, casting Madigan in the role. McCoy asks Tom for a place to crash for the night as she's only passing through and is short on cash. Tom agrees, saying she can crash on the couch. Tom changes his mind and decides to go rescue Ellen, telling Reva to have Fish meet him at the diner the next day. Before that, Tom heads to a contact of his to get some weapons under the counter. Meanwhile, Reva tells McCoy why things went south between Tom and Ellen.
I'll tell you, Tom wasn't going for being number 2 to her music. So he just took off. He was crazy about Ellen. He's just the kind of guy who doesn't like to admit it.
Yeah, sure, I know the type.
Tom meets Fish and it's hate at first sight, especially since in addition to the 10 grand Tom wants as a fee to rescue Ellen, he wants Fish to accompany him, as Fish used to live in the Battery District where the bombers hang out and knows his way around.
Look, Cody, you sound pretty dumb, but nobody's that dumb. I'm the one paying you. That means you go get her, I wait here, and you bring her back to me.
Eventually, Fish decides to go with Tom. McCoy offers her services, and after some arguing, Tom accepts her help and cuts her in for 10% of the fee. Arriving in the Battery, Fish says the bombers hang out at a bar called Torchy's, which is inside an old factory. We then see Raven in his disturbing pleather overalls having a word with Ellen.
You know, you're making things real hard on yourself. You act nice, you and me fall in love for a week or two, and then I let you go. Nobody gets hurt. You see, I ain't such a bad guy. I just get excited around pretty girls.
Tom positions Fish as the getaway driver. McCoy heads in the front pretending to be a customer, while Tom heads up to the rooftop across the street. A bomber hits up McCoy, who takes her upstairs. She knocks the bomber out and crashes Raven's poker game. Tom spots Ellen through a window and starts taking shots at the bombers' motorcycles, causing them to explode, which gives him an opportunity to get inside and rescue Ellen. Fish picks up Ellen and McCoy, while Tom stays behind to cover their escape. As he's about to leave himself, Tom has his first encounter with Raven.
You're dumb. Real dumb if you think you can pull this off.
I think you're forgetting something. I got the gun.
I can get guns, smart guy, lots of them. Now, why don't you tell me your name?
Tom Cody. Pleased to meet you.
Tom meets up with the rest of the group, but not before Fish tells Ellen Tom only rescued her for the money, and McCoy tells him Tom and Ellen used to be an item.
What is this old flame stuff?
Didn't you know? Ellen used to go with Cody. Real hot and heavy from what I hear. You know what I mean?
Was she kidding?
Let's not get into it now, okay, Billy?
To throw off the bombers, Tom ditches the car in an underground parking garage. Fish and McCoy take an elevator to the street, while Ellen talks to Tom in the stairwell.
What was I supposed to do? I had all that work. Things were going real good. Things were starting to happen for me.
Yeah, so bye-bye Tom, right?
You're the one that took off and joined the army.
Let's forget all this. It's history. From now on, I'm just like you. I do what I'm good at, and I do it for money.
Is that why you came and got me?
That's right. Billy Fish is paying me 10 grand.
I just can't believe you'd do that.
Maybe you better get used to the idea.
The four wind up in another district of the city, the Strip, where they encounter a fan of Ellen's, Baby Doll, played by E.G. Daly. Yes, the voice actress. The group tries to ditch her, but she proves to be useful when she informs them that the cops, thanks to Tom's rampage in the Battery, are looking for whoever tore the place up. Needing new wheels, Tom stops a bus which happens to be the transportation for a doo-wop group, the Sorrels. They more or less hijack the bus, and the Sorrels realize that Ellen is one of the group.
Remember when you didn't love me? Now all the time you're thinking of me. Hey, life is great, you're all I'm living for. This is my countdown to love. Oh, this is my countdown to love.
As the bus makes its way through the Strip, they come upon a police roadblock. Fish offers the cops a bribe, but because he offered it a little too fast, the cops get suspicious.
All right, now this is how we're gonna play it. You're gonna walk off this bus like there's nothing wrong. Get me?
Sit down! Oh, shit. All right!
After blowing the hell out of the roadblock, the group ditches the bus and grabs a train back to the Richmond, arriving just after dawn. But it doesn't seem that the events of the evening have healed any rifts between anybody.
This whole thing started because I had to do a gig in this shithole. I should have stayed the hell away from this dump.
Is that the way you feel about it, Ellen? Yeah, I guess I just want to get away from here. Get back on the road.
Now you're talking, kiddo. Come on, let's get out of here.
I hate you for taking money to come and get me.
As Ellen leaves the police station, Tom spots Raven's lieutenant at the back of the crowd outside, who tells Ed Raven wants to meet.
I want Tom Cody. I want to nail that son of a bitch's head to the sidewalk under that marquee that says Ellen Aim on it. And just to prove to you, I'm gonna be a nice guy. I'm coming in with just 2 of my men. After I take care of Cody, there'll be no more trouble.
Meanwhile, the entire experience has apparently left Tom acting kind of like an asshole.
Hey, McCoy. Look, I'll get you your money later, okay?
Is that all you got to say? I'll get your money to you later?
Yeah, that's all I gotta say. What else do you want to hear?
And look, I did real good back there.
So what? I'm all out of medals. Besides, you're getting paid.
What's your problem? You're feeling pretty sorry for yourself,
Don't
aren't you?
start on me, Reva.
She comes back to town, tells you and everybody else it doesn't mean a goddamn thing.
Yeah, and the worst part is she runs over with that creep Billy Fish.
No, Tom, I didn't ask you to go out and get Ellen Aim because she looks great on stage.
Well, what the hell do you care about
I
then?
care about you!
Ed comes into the diner and tells Tom about Raven's challenge. As a result, Ed orders Tom to leave town that night.
Look, you did real good rescuing her, Tom. You surprised me, because I didn't think you had it in you. Now surprise me again. Do something else real good. Be on that train tonight.
Tom gets his money from Fish, but then only keeps the 10% he promised McCoy before leaving. Ellen chases after him and confronts him in the street.
What was I supposed to do? I hadn't heard from you in 2 years. You didn't even write me a letter. What did I do that was so wrong?
Ellen offers to run away with Tom, and Tom meets up with McCoy.
You're really crazy about Ellen, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I am.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with it, nothing to be embarrassed about.
I ain't embarrassed. I just know it ain't gonna work out. Ellen and I are going in different directions. It's nobody's fault.
Maybe you're right, because you don't look like no backup singer to me.
Look, I'm gonna need your help tonight. I gotta do something I don't want to do.
That night, Tom, Ellen, and McCoy hop a train to the Bayside District, where Tom springs a surprise.
This is not the Bayside.
There's something back in the Richmond I gotta take care of.
What are you talking about?
You get as far from here as you can. You run until you hit the Bayside. You can hang out there.
Sure, tough guy.
Charming. Anyway, Tom tries to get a train back to the Richmond, but the driver tells him that the bombers are doing everything they can to seal off the district, including bombing the tracks. The next morning, Raven arrives in the Richmond, and Ed tells Raven to buzz off, saying Tom and Ellen aren't around. When Ed tries to arrest Raven, Raven, unsurprisingly, calls in the rest of the gang. Fish tries to force Raven to leave, but gets punched out. Fortunately, Tom recovers the car and arrives for the fight.
Nice, huh?
As the fight begins, the residents of the Richmond show up with their own weapons. Eventually, the pickaxes are thrown aside and the fight becomes a bare-knuckle brawl. Tom manages to take down Raven, and before the bombers can react, the Richmond reacts first.
Get out of here!
And with the bombers driven off and Ellen safely back in the Richmond, the concert is back on with a brand new opening act and the only song from this movie that became an 80s pop standard.
No more timing each tear that falls from my eyes. I'm not hiding the remedy to cure this old heart of mine. I can be about you if I can't hold it tonight.
The interesting thing about this song is that the version we hear in the film is not the version that was on the soundtrack album or made it onto the radio. This song was written by Dan Hartman, and both the soundtrack and radio versions feature his vocals. However, the film version features the vocals of Winston Ford. Hartman apparently did some sort of finagling behind the scenes to get his version onto the soundtrack and thus onto the airwaves. For my money, I prefer the film version. Backstage, Tom and Fish come to an understanding.
But don't worry, Cody, I'm not gonna stand in your way with Ellen. I know how it is between you two.
There's one thing we both know, Fish. She needs you a lot more than she needs me.
Yeah, she needs me, but she loves you.
She'll get over it. She's used to me being unreliable.
And he also comes to an understanding with Ellen.
Look, I know you're gonna be going places with your singing and stuff. And I'm not the kind of guy to be carrying your guitars around for you. But if you ever need me for something, I'll be there.
Which brings us to the closing song of the film, Tonight is What It Means to Be Young. Another Steinman piece, commissioned when Hill's original plans to use the Bruce Springsteen track Streets of Fire, which the movie took its name from, fell through. Supposedly, Springsteen withdrew permission to use the song when he found out it would be re-recorded with a new vocalist. Music producer Jimmy Iovine then asked Steinman to come up with a new song, which was written in 2 days and inserted into the film, causing the production team to reshoot the closing concert sequence. Outside the theater, Tom runs once more into McCoy.
Found it in the middle of the street. Somebody just dumped it. Finders keepers, you know what I mean?
Maybe you need some company, huh?
I don't mind if you tag along.
Guess this is my big chance, huh?
Hey, cool down, big guy. I already told you. Get out my type.
Streets of Fire was originally envisioned as a trilogy of films. However, by the time the film was produced and released, the executives at Universal who had greenlit the movie had moved to 20th Century Fox and the entire project got left behind. The film did not do well at the box office, only making $8 million against a $14 million budget. However, the movie has become something of a cult classic, with Larry Gross claiming the stylized vision of the film influenced later stylized films like Seven and RoboCop. Other projects which acknowledge influence from Streets of Fire include the 1980s anime series Bubblegum Crisis and the work of independent musicians The Proto-Men. In 2008, an unofficial sequel was made entitled Road to Hell, directed by Albert Pion and starring Michael Pare as Tom Cody and Deborah Van Valkenburg as Riva. It had a very limited showing in approximately 3 theaters and a couple of festivals, and as of production of this video, the movie hasn't seen the light of day since 2012. Streets of Fire is one of those movies where there's no middle ground. You will either like it or you will hate it. It's fairly thin on story or characterization, but visually and musically it is a stunning film. I personally like it a lot, but then I like highly stylized movies like this. It's not for everyone, but if you've never seen it before, give it a shot and make up your own mind. I'm Aaron Mills. Join me again next week for another edition of Saturd80s.
You know something, Waldo? We're gonna be rich.
Yeah. Long live rock and roll.